Hair cards. You've probably seen them before, probably didn't know what they're called, probably been searching for said information for a long time. That's me, by the way. But what are hair cards? They're just an efficient way to add hair, fur, or feathers onto a character with an extensive number of said object, to the point where modeling out every pieces individually would not be very practical and also extremely unoptimized. Hair cards are really just transparent textures that are projected onto a plane to give the illusion that a character have hair without using up too much memory. Which is why today I'll show you guys how to make hair cards. Really simple stylized ones. This video won't incorporate any shaders like those you see in the Capcom Monster Hunter games, nor will it go over the techniques to make them via modeling, as to be honest with you, I don't know enough to say anything. But I do know how to set them up, somewhat. It's quite simple, and many people have DM'd me on Discord asking for help on this specific subject. I will also go over how to add them into Roblox as well, and consequently how to add textures onto Roblox models. I've seen that in the comments a few times recently. So, firstly, you want to have a 2D drawing program. I highly recommend you use Krita, as it's free and is essentially the blender of 2D arts. With that being said, let's get to the video. Alright, here we are in Krita. So, first thing you want to do, your UI might be a bit different than mine, but you want to click New File, then this option will show up. For hair cards, I generally like to hover around 500 to 300 pixels. Just make it a square. Both width and height are the same. You can go higher, but since the point of hair cards are generally to be optimized, I don't see a reason to give it like a whole 2K map. Like that amount of details is just very unnecessary. What you can do though is make like a entire 4K or 2K map and have like a shitload of different little hair sprites in there that you can use. I know Monster Hunter does that. That is more efficient than having individual hair cards being in multiple different files. Generally, one big file is more optimized than a bunch of smaller files. Although it's a curve that isn't linear, at some point that big size is going to increase exponentially for the memory, and the small sizes are better. But in game development cases, well, like if we're talking for Unity, Unreal, or Roblox even, generally just do whatever works for you. I think 2K would be fine. But I'm going to go just for one hair strand or like type of hair strand. I'm going to go for feather actually. Feather design because it's going to be a bit easier to see. So I'm just going to go 500 by 500. But whatever works for you. So let's click create. And boom. So firstly, I will be using my drawing tablet for this video. I don't think it freaking matters to be honest because it's going to be a very small drawing. But okay, maybe I should explain some of these really cold looking brushes here. Like look, they allow me to have custom UIs. I'm gonna have custom UIs, dude. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, you can use like this basic brush here. But let me explain some basic controls for Krita just to get you guys started. Firstly, mouse scroll wheel, middle mouse scroll is to zoom in and out. Middle mouse click is to move around. I think control, you can also do this to zoom, control and press down middle mouse. Shift, middle mouse is to spin the canvas around. If you want to do an increment, you click shift alt, I lied, shift control, I lied, I forgot actually. Oh, it was shift alt space. Yeah, for gore, it's been a while. And then you left click to actually rotate that. Pretty good to reset the canvas. That's what I usually do. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you are pretty familiar with a 2D art program. And if you're familiar with Krita, that's perfect. If you're not, this is just to get you guys down on the basic controls. So first thing I'm going to do is I want my feather, in this case actually be mirrored. First thing I'm going to do is actually turn this on. Just mirror, that's it. If you find that when you start painting and you hit this marker and it starts moving your strokes around, you don't like that, what you can do is lock it and that will hide it. I'm gonna first click this though, just to move it to the center so it's perfectly aligned with the canvas. So I got my drawing pen here, and I'm actually, the setup is a bit weird. So you guys saw that Rajang image on the computer. I kid you not, that's actually my setup. Well, like slightly different on the display screen, but I actually have my drawing tablet to the side like that. So I'm sitting, like, I'm looking at my main display right now, and I actually am not looking at the other drawing tablet because that would require me to twist my entire body, and then the mic won't catch my voice. So yeah, it's a weird setup, but this will work out. So yeah, let's make something simple, and I'll explain how to make those alphas later. First things you want to do is let's just paint something. Let's make a little feathered looking design. I'm not gonna go too harsh on this. It's not supposed to be perfect. This is just a small video, and you can make your own things later. You can do this with as much detail as you want. But in terms of like what I would do for a commission, it would be different for like styles and everything. But I would just get a base down, something like that. Maybe do this too. And there are some important things I will mention right now. Firstly, hair, feathers, leaves, whatever. For God's sake, please have some amount of space under your canvas here. I recommend something like this. Minimum. Okay, just have that space there. Which is why actually having your canvas be slightly bigger might be important, just so you can have that space. Same with the top as well. Never, okay, you will make me very sad if you do this. You'll hurt my feelings. Never have your paint cross into the canvas down here. Never do that with hair cards. The reason you shouldn't do that with hair cards is because it will actually bleed this paint down here on top of here. So I don't have an example on my computer right now, but basically, like especially on Roblox, I don't know if it affects it in Unity or Unreal. I reckon it does though because of how paint bleeds. But basically, when you go far away from a character, that paint that's at the bottom will start appearing as very thin lines above this hair texture. So like you'd see small lines on every single one of the hair cards, it would look really off. If you have this space here, it will help prevent you from seeing that. And also because it gives space for the UVs to kind of like chill right about here, and the paint doesn't bleed onto the top. Secondly, and this is mainly for Krita, I don't know about other art program, but it should be pretty similar. You want to go to the background of Krita. Firstly, turn off this locked. That just means you can't paint over it, but I don't think it matters in this case. But you have a few options. You can either get the erase tool. I'm assuming most people might be on all here with all the all the wacky looking custom brushes I have. But what you can do is either erase this entire background here, or you can just turn the opacity down to 0%. Either way works. I like to do this 0%. And once you do that, you have alphas. They look pretty good. But I think this feather look a bit dog shit, okay? So let's like make it look a little better, you know, give it a bit of a gradient. Let's make it lightly blue. I think that might make it look good. Oh, also here's something really nice with Krita. If you want to paint over something you've already painted and you don't want to paint outside of it, you can just click the little checker box right there. Pop up. That looks pretty good. I'll just go down here and maybe give it like a dark purple down design there. I'll make it light blue up here. Remember this, I'm not trying to put too much effort into this, just making something that looks pretty nice. And let's go over this with a maybe a few design here, some strokes, just to maybe give you guys some ideas on what you can make yourself as well, if you want. I don't know if there's a way to keep it mirroring but hide the lines so you don't see it, to be honest. It's not a big distractor for me, but especially when you start, overlaying it like this, it can get a bit annoying when you don't really know what you're doing. Put that there. And yeah, and however detailed you want this to be is completely up to you, as I said. So, this looks like feathers enough to you? I don't think it does. It looks like scales, to be honest with you. But it will be good enough for the demonstration of this video. So, once that's done, you got your feather, right? Awesome. What do you do with it? Well, firstly, you want to save the file. But for this model specifically, I'm not going to save it because I don't really care about it too much. What I'm going to do is go to File, Export, and I think that just leaked all of my files. But I'll just save it in here. You want to change this to PNG. And it has to be PNG, by the way. I think most people know this. If you use other files that don't support alphas, I know PNG support alphas. I don't know if there's any other file type that supports alpha. There probably is, but JPEG doesn't support alphas. Now, the one bad thing about this, and the reason why I recommended you guys should do a small file, a bunch of small files over a large file for hair cards, is because PNGs are really fucking unoptimized. Like, they're really laggy. If you're making like a creature texture, right? You want to bake the textures in the format of PNGs, but then convert that over to JPEG either with Krita or some other art program. You don't want to keep that as PNGs. PNG are very, very high detailed, but are very uncompressed and unoptimized. But when you require alphas, you basically need to use PNGs, which is why I think having a small file is best. So I'll call this feather video, whatever you want to call it. But save that texture. And I'll ask this for Krita. I'm just gonna put it at the highest possible amount of compression. I mean, the lowest, I should say. So it looks as detailed as possible. Probably don't want to do that if you're making it for a game, but it'll work for me. So, okay. And you're done. Now, of course, if you were making this for yourself, you'd probably want to save it here, but I don't care enough about this thing to save it. So, that would be all for the 2D art program. Let's hop over to Blender and see what we've got to work with. Alrighty, here we are in Blender. So, how do we add hair cards? Firstly, you want to add a plane. Well, let me mention firstly, this elliptical aerodynamic beam that I have here right now. It's just a shape for me to put that feather on. This might be your creature. This will be my creature. I'll name him Bob. So, how do we give Bob some feathers? Firstly, let's add a plane. So I'm going to go into X view, like the previous Shantian tutorial, put in a plane. And unlike that, I'm actually going to move this really quickly. And I'm going to move it up. I'm going to swap over to material preview so I can see the materials. And I'm going to go to shading. First thing you want to do is create a new shader. So once you go to shading here, click new, and you get a principled BSDF. So you want to click Shift A, click Image, Texture, click Image Texture, get that, put it right here, and then click Open. Now even more file leaks. However, now you want to get over to your texture, wherever your texture file is. Actually, like, put it in a different file now, because I realized I actually have a file for my pictures for YouTube videos, so I don't have to leak all of the things I've worked on for other developers. That being said, here it is. Grab it. Once you get it, plug the color into the base color. It may not be orientated properly, that is fine, we will fix that later. Then you want to plug the alpha into alpha. There. And it should disappear. If it doesn't, then what you want to do is go down to material. Then on one of these, like the render method, try changing that from dither to blended. Or dither to blended. But I don't think that's gonna matter for our texture right here, because in 4.2 it's a bit different compared to before 4.0. But if you want to get close up to the texture real quick, you see these little blur here, right? This little, almost like volumetric gas. What you want to do is change this to blended. You don't want to see that. And that seems to destroy my file for some reason. And now, you don't see it. This is what most game renders it at. I don't think Roblox renders it like this. The issue of this is it has some transparency issue. So I'm just going to keep it at dither, which is the default. So, once you got this, how do we fix the orientation? Here's what you want to do. You want to go to UV editing while selecting the hair card, and then just rotate the square until you get your desired orientation. Well, then you may ask, could you? Look at this, dude. There's so much empty space over here. What is this? How do we get that away? Simple. I'll show you. Let me first remove this. Because Roblox doesn't, Blender doesn't remove it automatically when I Control Z. But I also forgot to put on the key pressing thing, but I don't. If you're gonna learn hair card, I assume you guys would know the basic controls of Blender. So, you want to click Shift V, and that's the edge slide. I think I may have shown this in the Shantien video. I think double G also worked. But what you want to do is just slide the edge closer to the hair card. Doesn't have to be exactly on it, just close. And this is really just for your reference. You could have honestly used the square. I just like this, so I kind of get an idea of what I'm really working with, where the ends and sides, where the side starts and end, basically. The reason you want to do Shift V, I don't know if double G works. Oh, double G also works. Is because they also affect the UVs in here, and while also affecting the mesh, which is really good. That's what we need. And now, if we go back to layout, we have a hair card. But what if you want this hair card to be a bit more detailed? You can do that. Hell, you can even strap the subsurface in here, even though that fucks it up, but I'll explain that in a second. So usually what some game does is they make it slightly more detailed than this. If you don't like the sharpness there, you can also shade it smooth. Some games just kind of cut it like that a little. Some even do this to give it just a bit more dimension. Some games give it a lot of loops. I know Elden Ring does that, but that's specifically because of their hero characters, as in like a primary character that will only have one unit appear in game generally at one time. So details for them make sense. But if you have something you know that will have multiple clones of itself appear across the entire game, then you might want to be a bit less generous with the amount of polygons you leave to the hair cards. But now how you place them. And this is where I have something I must confess to you guys, that I honestly don't know how to place these properly, or rather procedurally. There is a way to do it, and I have done it a few times in the past. The images that I showed of Engineer's tail were done procedurally, but they were very unoptimized and don't look good that often. So, what do? I change this to active, so the vertices that I'm selecting, generally the bottom of the fur or feather, is the one that the pivot will be rotating on. And I literally go on here, strap on a mirror modifier if I'm feeling happy, and then just do this over and over until I get the shape I like. Yep, that's right. If you came to this video expecting a way to procedurally generate these hair cards, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I actually don't know a way to do it. Because, okay, you can set up a hair particle system. How I did it for Nginx was I set up a hair particle system, and like a particle instance system for the feathers, and then just strap it on there, onto the hair particle system of the object. But I find that it tends to duplicate it too much and the orientation is always off. So I just stopped doing it and do this instead. And it's way more optimized as well. We can check statistics, see how much triangle we're using. And here's what I like to do, usually for commissions. I would duplicate the hair all over the place and then start messing up a few of them. Just making them a bit more randomized. Maybe for feathers shouldn't be. Feathers should maybe be more aligned, but we'll just do this, clean it up. Then select everything, go to X, and then just start duplicating. And this is where I might turn this off and turn the pivot off from active and then use medium. And then we keep doing it. Yeah. Look, if you know a better way to procedurally generate these fur or hair, like, please post in a comment and I might mention it in the next video or maybe in a community note so people know how to use it. That would be very generous of you. However, I don't know an effective way, which is why the best way that I know how to do it is to manually do it. And in the end of the day, I honestly think manual, you still have to go over the fur and hair a bit manually, especially for hair, especially for characters. You want the hair to be in a specific look, like you're gonna have to edit each strand manually, or each card manually, I should say. And so I think having a bit of practice placing them and having a bit of patience doing so might help, and will probably give you the best result. However, as I said, usually once I get to a good clump like this, I'll just start selecting a group like this. So I'll select just randomly a group of vertices, click Ctrl L so I link all of the card that those vertices belong to, and then just duplicate. And then I start placing them. So yeah, that's basically it when it comes to putting these hair cards, setting them up, and placing them. Now I'm just gonna kind of cover this this elliptical being for a bit here, and then we'll import it to Roblox and I'll show you guys how to actually get these textures working. That honestly looks pretty good. Yeah, like, let's see how much triangle that is. 1,000? That's pretty good. I mean 2,000 because it's mirrored. Also, if you guys would go into solid right now, look at how clean that looks. I don't know why, man, but every time I see hair cards like this, like little squares scattered, they look so when they look clean, man, there's something so cool about that. Some Z fighting right there, but whatever. But right. Now that would be done for the Blender segment. Personally, I'm not experienced with other game engines, so I can't say much about like how you would put this into Unity or Unreal. But this video is mainly to show you guys how to make hair cards in Blender. And so I hope this helps, and I hope that you guys find other videos that helps you put it into your specific game engine. However, ever since I was a kid, I spent way too much time on Roblox, and so I know a lot of tiny nitty gritty things about it. So I'm going to show you guys how to export this into Roblox and set it up properly, alongside how to set it up with how to set up textures in general, because we're going to have to set up textures for this. I think it should be good. So first thing you want to do is export it as an FBX. And this time, we're actually going to export the mesh and not just the armature. So click FBX. More leaks. This is actually my personal file, so it's fine. Click mesh. And if you have an armature, also click that with it if it's a rig. Scale, I'm just going to put it at 0.1. Usually that always get it to the somewhat decent size in Roblox. But that isn't mandatory. No anims, none of this. doesn't matter either because we don't have armature, but I just instinctively do that. So hair cards, click export FBX. And that is done for Blender. I'll see you guys over in Roblox and we'll set it up there. Alright, here we are in Roblox. Is that a McDonnell Douglas FA-18 Hornet? I might need to add that. I don't think I ever said it on this channel, but I'm like really into planes, specifically like 4th gen and above. I'm like a big plane nerd. I actually want to be an aircraft designer. So yeah, might see more plane content on this channel at some point. But here we are. Let's import the hair cards. So you know how to do that. Model. Never mind, I forgot. Home. And then import 3D. Hair cards. Let's do that. This pop-up will show up. It will look a bit weird. Especially the texture. If someone can explain this little glitchy effect, do it in the comment. It wouldn't show up when you actually apply the texture, but when it imports, it does it. So I don't want to import to Roblox. Import as model, yes. Bob and the plane, and let's import. They added this new import queue thing. It honestly just looks pretty ass. I don't know why they even had to add it. I guess like you can move around while it's importing. Previously you couldn't, but whatever. Alright, here's the guy. Here's Bob, the elliptical being. Let's fix this fur. This doesn't look very good. Or like the hair, I should say. No, I mean the feathers. The feathers don't look too good. Let's fix it. So, hold Alt to select through the model. Select the hair. Then, because the texture's already applied here, what you can do is go to wherever the hair is, the object for the hair. In our case, it's plane. We'll click the plus sign, search surface, or just sir, and it will show up. You want to put in surface appearance. Very important. Do that. Now the hair is gone. Now what you want to do is go to the plane and copy the texture ID, paste it in there, and boom. Give it a minute, and it'll show up. Still doesn't look good. Now, this is important. If you don't see the texture here, or it's the wrong texture, and you still want to apply the hair, what you want to do is you want to first publish the studio. I haven't published the studio, but once you do, there will be like a little plus symbol here, I believe. Or like, I think it's 3 dots right here. You click that, it will take you to your files. Then you want to find a texture file of the hair or fur or feathers, and then put it in, okay? Put it in color map, by the way, not anything else. Once you do that, you want to go up into the alpha mode and change the alpha from overlay to transparency. Once you do that, boom, you're done. That hair looks mighty fine. The feathers, I should say. I'll explain how to fix this right now. So you see, if you go behind the fur, because it's a back face, it's a plane, you don't see it because it's not rendered back here. So how do you make it render back there? Simple. First, select the object of the hair and then turn on double-sided right here. Once you tick that on, you can see behind it, just like in Blender. That's called backface culling, by the way. I think the first video I ever done, aside from that fuck-ass Godzilla video, was a video on how to, the first tutorial I made actually, was how to fix that. But in this case, it's only double-sided, like, there's actually no other fix because it's just a flat plane. So maybe, yeah, I don't think I've ever mentioned it. I think in one video, I think in the hair wrinkle video actually, or like cloth wrinkles, but whatever. You got your cool looking hair, and that is done. That's for Roblox at least. That's literally all it is. Furthermore, the use of surface appearance, as you guys saw, is how you apply image textures to Roblox with normals, metals, normal, metallic map, and roughness map. That's the only way. So if you have a creature or a character with those extra maps, you would just put that in alongside the color map. Even hair too. If you have hair with normals, like you can generate that with materialize, plug that in there too. Additionally, this technique for hair cards isn't the only use of the technique. You can also use this for anything else that requires a transparent image or an alpha, unless you don't want to put that directly on the character's texture, this is another way you can do it. One example off the top of my head is like fighter jet insignias. If you're making a fighter jet game where people can change what country or who they're affiliated with, and they have different symbols in their aircraft when they do so, you might want to set up that haircard system just on the tail or any other part where this insignia may show up, and then just change the image ID as the person cycled through their different insignias. So yeah, this isn't a super limited technique. With that being said though, I hope you enjoyed this video. I don't know how often I will upload anymore. I am really busy right now. Furthermore, I'm slowly, probably, gonna push my content away from Roblox, especially with all of the fuck-ass drama that's going on with it. But while I still work on Roblox, I'll make these videos to give you guys tips that may help you in your own development if you want to continue with it. That being said, I do have college coming up, and yes, I am employed. You saw the community notes. So yeah, life's going good. That being said, thank you for watching, and have a mighty good day, buddy.